If you're a regular on Best of Us Investors YouTube channel, you may have recognized the thumbnail that I used. I used it first on August the 21st of 2020. That's when I basically determined I wanted nothing to do with China. So with that in mind, I found no surprise after I've done my reading to recognize that we are at war with China. That Xi Jinping has declared that by 2042, they will be the world superpower and they will dominate the world on military, political, and economic forces. They made that move back 20 years ago when they made us dependent upon them for our manufacturing. They have now taken that away. Their first move was to give us a virus, and now they are continuing their zero policy, and that is shutting our manufacturing down. And this is a move to shut down the U.S. economy.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Griegmeyer.
As I said, I did that video back on March 21st, 2020, and subsequently I've done a total of 42 videos on my feelings on China. And if you remember, you've probably seen me talk about this book, The Long Game by Rush Doshki. He was involved, I believe, in Trump's administration, so he's Chinese, and so he's something of an expert on China. And it goes into great detail of Xi Jinping's long game, and that is that he wants to become the superpower, what he feels that China's rightful place in the world is, and he's going to do anything and everything to achieve it. And that requires him to become a military force, which he announced in October's communist meeting that his military force is ready to go to war. They have more battleships than the United States. They're ready to defend the China Sea, and they're ready to take on Taiwan, even though Joe has said that if they do get aggressive to Taiwan, Joe will put boots on the ground and defend Taiwan, because again, we're dependent on the advanced semiconductors that come out of Taiwan's semiconductor plants. So that is a given, that militarily China's ready. But the other thing you've got to recognize, if you're going to take over a economic dominance, you have to do something to take the economic dominance away from the party who currently has it, and that would be the United States. Well, back in 2020, China realized that the United States was vulnerable because cost of goods were going up. U.S. consumers didn't like that their running shoes were going up to $200 a pair. So China raised its hand to Nike and said, hey, we can make those running shoes for half the price and actually get them shipped to the United States on our shipping, and you can save money and take care of your customers. Well, Nike is just one example. Apple followed, Tesla followed, millions of companies followed. I even had the Christmas web manufactured in China because it would cost me roughly 20% of what it would cost to have the same thing done in the United States. So they addicted us, and I mean us, the world, to their cheap labor. So we became dependent. Then it came in a position where, hey, we need to move forward on this plan to take control of the economic power. So why don't we just introduce a virus that goes across the world, and it will shut down all manufacturing, and then we will prolong that virus through our zero tolerance policy, and we will bring the world to its knees as their economies fail. Now you say, they couldn't do that. They wouldn't hurt their people like this. And look at all the repercussions and the demonstrations they're having? Well, if you are committed to becoming the superpower of the world, you'll sacrifice anything, including your people, in order to achieve your goal. And I think China has proven that over the past centuries, that they'll do whatever it takes. And right now, the sacrificial lambs are their people. It is their economy. They built it up, and now they're bringing it down. And as they bring it down, they will bring down the economies of around the world. We see that. We experience it. And I mentioned that we're at war because we've recognized it. Now you say, what do you mean we're at war? Well, yesterday I was talking to my son Trent, and he shared with me a young man that I knew who graduated with my granddaughter Haley several years ago, is in the Navy. And he has just recently been deployed to Australia. And Trent commented to the young man's father, well, that's probably a pretty cushy job. And the guy said, no, he's on a destroyer, and he's with the 7th Fleet. So I came back and I did some research. Who's the 7th Fleet, and what are they doing in Australia? And I want to share this headline that I came across, and then I want you to read the yellowed area that I have put on there, and you're going to see that, in fact, the 7th Fleet is the largest military naval force in the world, and they're down there with Australia, Canada, and Japan doing exercises preparing to do war in the China Sea. We're at war, folks. And so you need to know that as an investor, and take my advice of, what was it, about a year or 2 years ago, that get out of China. Get out of your investments of China. I even saw an article that said Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, has been discovered in Tokyo. He's been there for the last 6 months. Jack Ma got out of China. I think maybe you should get out of China too. So with that in mind, that we're going to war with China because we're dependent on their manufacturing, I project that they are forming an alliance with Russia, Iran, and North Korea. I just did a video on their involvement and advancement in supersonic ballistic missiles, and how they have claimed, both Iran and China, that they have already launched a supersonic ballistic missile from their countries, circled the globe, and landed back in their country, and with no notice from the United States. Now, I don't really believe that the United States didn't notice it, but I do believe they recognize they're behind the 8 ball on this, and they got to move forward. That was in yesterday's video, and you can learn more about that. But where do you invest then? Certainly not China or anybody who is totally dependent on China. And I would offer Tesla as an example, and I would offer Apple as an example. So you got to be aware of that. So if we are, in fact, Kerry, you're right, we're preparing for war with China, well, then you've got to invest in defense. And that's Lockheed Martin, and that's Northrop Grumman, and companies that are making defense materials for the United States, because we haven't rung the bell and told everybody we're at war, but we are at war. We are economically at war, and so that's a place you need to invest. 2 days ago, I did a video where I broke down my portfolio, and I shared with you the war companies that I am investing in, and I think you should be investing in, to take us through the next year, maybe 2 2 years as we build up our military defense. I also shared with you that the other areas I believe that are going to change, and I did a video yesterday on it when Caribou announced that they got a fast forward movement on their genome sequencing and genome editing for curing cancer drug. This is an area you need to invest in. What I guess I'm saying is the world is changing, and you aren't going to be able to stop genome sequencing and genome editing, and certainly you're not going to be able to stop inflation, which is self-inflicted. Good God, we pumped $9 trillion into our economy in 9 months, and we've got to get that out of the system. We've got to get that money supply back down. We've got to, and the way we're going to do that is interest rates, and then we've got to get our unemployment up. Yes, you heard me right, which is going to affect real estate. So we're going into a recession, so the market will come down. I told you that the S&P will come on further down. It'll bottom out again. But at the same time, there are investment opportunities. Not in China. Get the hell out of China. The world's changing there. Is China going to dominate the United States? Will they achieve their objective? That's not my decision. All I can do is invest accordingly. I certainly hope they're not. And I see, since this young man that my son and I both know is on a destroyer with the 7th Fleet in Australia, along with the Japanese Navy, the Canadian Navy, and the Australian Navy, I think they're getting prepared to make sure we have an economy sometime after 2023. But that's for you to decipher. Read the articles. I'll put a link to it and in the description. And come if this is the kind of information you feel you need, and you want to work with other people in a community, come to our Discord. Friday, I'll have a stock talk. We'll talk more about this and the other developments that I think are going to happen in the world that is going to change our economy. And if you're in the right place, if you're invested in the right place, you'll do well. You won't have, until the genome sequencing and genome editing kicks in, you aren't going to see another surge like you did from let's say 2020 to 2008, and then 2010 to 2020. You aren't going to see that surge until genome sequencing and genome editing kicks in. And then, if you're in the right place, you're going to become a millionaire. Okay. All right. That's what I do. I'm at the beach. We're celebrating 2 weeks for Thanksgiving. We're going to come back down for Christmas. We like it down here so much. Raining today. That's why I'm not outside. But I'll talk to you again tomorrow about more investment opportunities.